Okay, Shalom Israel. Okay, we're going to continue where I left off at before, which was First Peter, the third chapter, and we were talking about likewise, you wives be in subjection to your own husbands. That's very important that we understand the chain of command here. Who's the woman's covering? The man is the woman's covering, and the Messiah is our covering. All right, that's very important for us to understand. And like I said earlier, no man is supposed to be having a private counsel with your wife without you being there. All right, we do obey the those that have rule over us. I'm not questioning that, but make sure that you're there with your woman, okay, when she's having these these so-called private counsels that I've been hearing about. All right, you're the head of your woman, and you make sure now that the doctrine or the information that your woman is receiving is sound doctrine. That's your responsibility, and we see examples of that when the Messiah gave Adam, okay, a helpmate. It was Adam's responsibility now to teach his woman Torah. All right, that's the responsibility. As a nation, the man's responsibility again is to teach his family Torah. Now, let's go back to 1 Corinthians, the 11th chapter. The 11th chapter, and I'm going to read the third verse again. But I will have you know that the head of every man is the Messiah. So the head of the man is the Messiah, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of the Messiah is the Father. Now let's go back again and bring out some more information about Eve. Let's go back to the book of Bereshit, the second chapter, and let's read now. Let's go to the 21st verse. And the Messiah caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept, and he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh instead thereof. 22nd verse. And the rib which the Messiah had taken from man made he a woman and brought her into the man. So now, this helpmate that Adam has, he's responsible for her. He is now her head as the Messiah is the man's head. Let's read now the 23rd verse. And Adam said, this is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman because she was taken out of me. Which is very, very important, okay? That we understand again what's going on here. The woman's head again is the man. 24th verse. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh in unison. And the way that a man is in unison, or you can consider the man one flesh with his woman, is when they are in consent with one another. They both have the understanding the chain of command. The Most High, the Messiah, the man, and the woman. They were one flesh. They was in agreement with one another, understanding the chain of command. Verse 25. And they were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed. Now, the word naked is the Hebrew word aram. It's spelled A-R-O-M, which is very, very important, okay, that we understand what's going on here. Now, the word naked, all right, what I did now is I put together a definition, okay, from a Hebraic perspective, so that we can understand what does the word naked means in contrast here with the scripture here. Now, the word naked means to see oneself as they truly are, to see the pure essence of a being, to reveal the true self without sin, unaware of sin, because we know that sin is transgression of the law. Now, when we read now the book of Bereshit, now the 25th verse, it says that they were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed because they did not know sin at this particular point. Now, when to see oneself as you truly are means that there's nothing to hide. The Messiah saw the purity in both Adam and in Eve. Okay, they had no sin. They understood what was expected of them in the wedding contract. Because like I always say in every show that I do, that from Genesis to Revelation, this is about a marriage covenant. This is an agreement that the Messiah is making with the nation of Israel. It started with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob was the father of the 10 tribes. And as I said previously in other shows, Joseph gave birth to Ephraim and Manasseh, and Ephraim and Manasseh were grafted into the fold. So it's very important that we understand this here now, right? We're talking about 12 tribes. 12 tribes of Israel. And they were both naked and they were not ashamed because the Messiah was able to see them as they truly are. The Messiah saw the pure essence of their being. And they were able to reveal the true self without sin because they had not transgressed the law. That's what it means when they say they were both naked and not ashamed. They had no reason to be ashamed of anything. They were pure. But something happened. In the book of Bereshit, the 3rd chapter, now, the 1st verse. I'm going to read this now. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field. This beast of the field was an actual man. And the word subtle is also synonymous with the word aron, which means naked. Now the Messiah was able to see this beast man for what he truly was. He was a liar and a sinner from the very beginning. All right. He was a subtle man. The Messiah was able to see through, okay, his covering because he was open before the Messiah. He was a cunning individual. Now watch what's happening here now. So now this individual now is going to come to the weaker vessel, which is the woman. Okay, and I don't say that with disrespect. I'm just going with the chain of command. The Messiah, the man, and the woman. And so what usually happens now, if you want to start interference in a household, it's always been a thing where they always go to the woman. That's the reason why it's very important for us to make sure that our women understand Torah. Very important. Because look at the example that's happening here. And let me read it again. And he said unto the woman, Yea, hath the Father said, You shall not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden. Now we have a situation here where the woman is entertaining a conversation with another man. She's now disrespecting her covering. Who is the woman's covering? The woman's covering is the man. She's disrespecting him. Because remember what the scripture says. A man is not supposed to sit down with another man's wife. Okay? Because what would eventually happen, okay, his heart would eventually be inclined to her. She's a married woman. Why is Eve entertaining a conversation like this with another man? This is now called disrespecting your head. Let's prove that. Let's go to the book of Corinthians 1 and 11. It says, Every man praying or prophesying having his head covered. Who is the man's head? The man's head is the Messiah. So, and he dishonored his head. So how can a man, okay, dishonor his head? A man can dishonor his head by not following Torah. That's simply what it means. What you're doing now when you dishonor your head, you're covering your head. You're now concealing the Messiah, which is your head. And how do you do that? Again, like I said, by not following Torah. By believing in Christmas. That's now concealing your head. By dishonoring, you're now dishonoring your head, which is your husband. You're following Christmas, Thanksgiving. You're believing that the New Year starts in the dead of the winter, January the 1st. You're following Valentine's Day. You're following Thanksgiving. All these pagan holidays you're following, you're now dishonoring your head. You're covering, you're concealing the Father. That's what you're doing. I'm going to read it again. Every man praying or prophesying having his head covered, you're now covering the Messiah because he's your covering. You're supposed to be following Torah. He dishonored his head. Who's his head? His head is the Messiah. So our responsibility is to show forth the praises and the glory of the Messiah in the world. You're not supposed to conceal or cover your head. This is what this means here. And how do you do this is by following the other nations. When you follow the other nations, you're now covering your head, which is the Messiah. You're dishonoring your head, which is the Messiah. This is what this is talking about. We're not talking about a head covering here. All right? Let's make sure that we understand these scriptures from a Hebraic perspective. Leave that Christian zone alone. And let's come back into the true understanding of the scriptures. Let me read on here. But every woman that prayeth or prophesied with her head uncovered. Who's the woman's head? The woman's head is the man. And how does she uncover her head? She uncovers her head and now makes her man naked because she's now entertaining the conversation of another man. So this is going to now bring discord in the house. This is what this means. She's now dishonoring her head, Eve, in the book of Genesis, the 3rd chapter, the book of Bereshith. She's dishonoring her head. She's entertaining a conversation with another man. No private counsels with your woman is supposed to be having with another man. You're the head of the house. And how does a woman disrespect her head? Is by not following Torah. Let me read it again. But every woman that prayeth or prophesies with her head uncovered, okay, disrespecting her husband, dishonoreth her husband, for that is even all one as if she was shaven. And we know that is an embarrassing thing for a woman to be bald-headed. The first thing a woman would do before that thing happens, a woman would get a weave, she'd get a, what you call that thing, a wig, and she'd get extensions before that happens. Because it's a shame for a woman to be shaven. She's uncovered now. She's dishonored her head, which is her husband. And this is what Eve is doing here. Let's prove it. We're going back to the book of Bereshith, the 3rd chapter, the 3rd verse. But of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, the Father hath said, you shall not eat of it, neither shall you touch it, lest you die. So we see here now that Adam did his responsibility by teaching the woman all things that the Messiah taught him regarding keeping the garden. And he taught these principles to his wife because his wife is quoting, okay, what the Messiah told Adam. Okay, now watch this. And the serpent said unto the woman, you shall not truly die. So now we have, okay, this man, okay, seducing, intoxicating the woman. That's what's happening. He's now challenging the authority of her husband. This is what this man is doing. He's causing this woman to uncover, to dishonor her head, which is her husband. Watch this. For the Father do knoweth that in the day you eat thereof, then your eyes shall be open, and you shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. And the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise. She took of the fruit thereof, and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. So then what do we have now? We have a situation here now where Eve came, okay, and she entertained this idea of this other man, and she now sowed discord in the house, causing Adam to eat. And what usually happens now is that when a woman gets upset and she gets really emotional, because I'm guaranteeing you that Adam resisted at first and said, woman, listen, Isha, listen to what's going on here now. We were given specific commandments now that we're not supposed to get involved with other theologies out here. The way that we're supposed to do things is we're supposed to follow Torah. But the woman gets emotional, she gets upset, and she holds back the quabba. No quabba tonight. The man is able to hold out for maybe 3 or 4 days. No quabba, no sex. But what happens? The man eventually gives in, and what I'm going to have to do now is stop right there.